Good afternoon, good evening, good morning. World, social media, Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, wherever you're viewing this from. It is now 7:30 South African Standard Time. It is 1:30 Eastern Standard Time, which means it is Downstage Production segment for Friday. Today, this morning, we will be doing an interview with Alexander Scelso, who we're very excited about. I'm very excited. I'm freaking out a bit because, we're expanding now, going beyond the technical team. We're now going into the more performing side as well, which, Also, before we start to the South Africans, how excited are we that Monday we go down to level 1? Let's try and keep the positivity. Let's try and keep safe and stay on level 1 and not go up again. I want to bring in my co-host officially for the first time ever, Morgan.
Hello, everyone. Good evening
afternoon.
and good afternoon, whatever time it is.
I'm so excited that you are here with me, finally, as co-host.
Yes. I am very excited, too.
This is your first one that you will actually be co-hosting.
Yes, it is, which is a very exciting thing, and it's wonderful to be able to help grow the Downstage family.
Definitely. And I mean, I'm so excited to have you here. Let's make magic.
Yes.
Morgan, you do the honors.
All right. So today we will actually be speaking with someone from my side of the world. This is someone that I have had the honor to know and to work with a few times. So welcome, everybody, Alexander Scelso.
Hello. Hey, everybody. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, wherever you are in the world.
All the time
we're in Brooklyn, New York right now. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you for being here.
Yeah, me too. I'm excited.
Well, I mean, yeah, this is a first for Downstage because we kind of, the Meet the Team series was based on the backstage technical people, which in a way you are, which we will get to as well. But I mean, you're also a performer. So this is kind of branching out, and obviously, you're also an international person, so that's very exciting. So I mean, let's start us off with a bit of an introduction, icebreakers. Why don't you tell us something about yourself, your name, your age, where you're from, something interesting about yourself. What is the most funniest or embarrassing moment you're willing to share? If you could have a superpower, what could it be? Give it to us. Give us all the deeds.
Okay, no, we got some good questions. All right, so the simple stuff. I'll start with that. So my name is Alexander Scelso. So I'm a Brooklyn, New York, from the U.S., born and raised, actor, spoken word poet, and also soon to be writer, which I'll get into later. And Satanya Face, the name. I live for the reaction. That's my drag queen persona, and she was born on February 18th of this year. So she is a pre-quarantine queen. And yeah, so I'm gonna turn 29 October 7th. So I'm entering the last years of my 20s. Let's see. Okay, so fun facts. I genuinely do love long walks on the beach and long walks in general. If you want to go on a walking date with me, actually the best thing ever. I love deep-hearted conversations. Nothing makes me uncomfortable. I've learned that. And something that, embarrassing theater moment. It was during summer camp. So I was 16, and at that time I took myself very seriously, but I had a director at the time who was so fixated on getting the performance perfect that we never got a bathroom break. So I remember we were doing 15-minute Hamlet where the audience gets to be like, fast forward, rewind, and we have to do the story of Hamlet as the different characters in sped up time, slow motion, whatever the audience called for. So it was very improv. I had a 20-second break and I really needed to pee. So backstage, I noticed that there was a potted plant with soil. And I was like, you know
Please,
what? I
no.
really gotta go. So I just went. I don't know if it was a set piece. I don't know if it's real. I did not care. I had to go and I had a 20-second break. I went, I pulled up the little, the little like Shakespearean trousers and went back on stage and did my thing. And I felt like a new person. But if I had a superpower, take away the feeling of having to pee before you perform. Also, because that's the nerves speaking. But I'd also say, ooh, it would be cool to have healing powers. If someone's talking to you about heartbreak and stuff like that, that always hits home for me. So if I could like put my hand on their heart, and not in a suggestive way or invasive way, but if I was able to do that and just kind of heal pain, that would be a really cool power to have. I think that would be nice.
Wait, before we continue, we need to go back to this.
I was going to say, I don't know which one to tackle first.
We have a lot.
Let's go to this pot plant thing, because that is kind of bothering me, especially as a stage manager and as technical staff.
Yes,
I actually don't have words. I just want to burst into laughter, but all I'm imagining in my head is like this ASM who goes to pick up his pot plant to bring it on stage, and it's just like filled with urine. I'm sorry, but this is what I'm imagining.
It was very.
I would usually be that one.
It was a big plant, you know what I mean? Like it was one of those that no one could lift it on stage. It was just, I think, resting there like as set dressing from a show that happened. And it was big. So I was just like, yeah, there's soil in here. It'll absorb, like that's fine. But no one could move that thing. So and it didn't drain out. I checked after the crime, and I was like, I need to make sure that I didn't, because I have respect for my stage people. Like I always want comfortable, but I did make sure it didn't leak, and it did not. And no one knew the wiser.
So this is a lesson for anybody who is listening. The stage managers and us, we call breaks for a very important reason, and this is one of them. We need bathroom breaks.
It's the best way to start this segment. I mean, now I've got this image in my head of like just this trail of like wet water just like going along backstage. There's so many images in my head.
Does anyone have a mop? Can we get a mop stage left?
We've got a leakage.
Just use my costume at this point. Like it was the last performance. It's like it's done. I'm leaving the camp soon. So it's fine.
Yeah, who needs it?
It was no leakage, and it never happened again because since then I was lucky to have stage managers that called for bathroom break. So I was very
very important thing.
I have before called a show out of the bathroom. It was a very busy sequence. The last 45 minutes of the show was extremely busy. Like in just Alex go, sound go, Alex go, like no breathing. And when it comes, I'm like, someone needs to come take over. I need to run to the bathroom. And no one wanted to. So I took my book on a trolley. Like there was this weird trolley backside, put it on the trolley. I went on the comms. I'm like to my production manager. I'm like, tell me when we're standing here and when we're doing this. And I ran to a bathroom with trolley, grabbed mobile comms plan, standing there, doing my thing. And he's just like, they're standing. I'm like, okay, Alex, go. Sound, go. I said, fly, go. Is it going? Can someone tell me if it's going? I mean, that has happened. But the plant...
Yeah, I've never had that. I've never called a show from a bathroom or anything either. I feel like we all have like bathroom related stories. I was just talking to someone that like the ASM and the SM happen to be on like the same schedule, so they always had to pee at the same time. So they'd like negotiate timing. I've had ones where I'm like, okay, let's go, and like there's nobody at the soundboard, but a sound goes off, and I'm like, it's intermission. And I'm like running the bathroom. I run back to the booth, and I'm like stopping that. We all have stories.
Listen, you can't let a little urine stop the star power. You can't stop the team. All right, so that's not going to happen here.
But it's just
Listen, we gotta get.
no. I think that is the best way to start this episode. I think I honestly do believe that. Okay, so the superpowers were healing, and what was the other? Oh, not to. Oh, yes. Okay. Now we go back to the plant again.
Yeah.
Yes, healing powers, which is wonderful.
Taking away the
healing powers.
Urinate before a performance. I feel like that
too.
It's a lot, because I feel like it stops you and it makes you feel like, oh my God, I don't know what to do. But somehow Dr. Theater always kicks in. Like, have you ever had this? Because I know that you guys have probably had to wear the headset. Have you ever felt like you had a cough stuck in your throat, like before you have to call anything? And somehow once you start calling the show and you call that first cue, it never has to happen again. And it just goes, Dr. Theater kicks in, because I've never had it where I had the same feeling on stage, but it's waiting to go beforehand. So it's that nervous energy. That's what that is.
No, I mean there is definitely some nervous ship that kicks in, but it's also a good thing. I mean, it keeps you alert. That's the whole thing. I mean, I can honestly, there's been times where just before I call a show and I've got clients and I go like, how do I call a show? What do I do? And then I'm like, okay, let's go. Sound go. And it's like just immediately, it's just like it just happens.
It's fine.
It's fine. We're gonna say it's fine.
Yeah, why not?
Wow. Okay, let's move on to something a bit more serious after this interesting start.
Beautiful.
Morgan, why don't you tackle this part?
Okay.
Well, I guess the next part of it is talking about like your educational background. Obviously, for anyone who doesn't know, Alex and I went to college together. We became friends from all of that. But in addition to college, you had done some theater before, as we hear with camp, and you continued to do acting and other forms of theater afterwards. Why don't you tell us a little bit about that and your prestigious Circle in the Square time?
Oh yes, the prestigious theater training.
Yeah.
The pretension. So basically, so I actually started acting when I was 4 years old. So the first time was like, I think it was like a holiday show in elementary school, and that's where I got the theater bug. And I guess the teacher wanted to celebrate the diversity of our class because, Brooklyn school, we got a lot of kids, different backgrounds. So it wasn't just a Christmas show, which made me very happy. And I was given the part of Kwanzaa. So I had to wear like the gele and like talk about the meaning of it. So no one got to represent who they are, but they had to speak on a different holiday. So the first part was my physical embodiment of Kwanzaa. And ever since then, I wanted to continue. And I continued through junior high, did like a drama talent thing at Bay Academy in Brooklyn. Had a great teacher, Miss Poma. She really believed in me. She was really awesome. And then summer camp, went to French Woods for the performing arts. So met a lot of cool people. Some are still friends to this day, but that taught you how to do a show in 3 weeks, like to mount everything, learning it and getting 5 performances done all within 3 weeks of a rehearsal process. So I was always in that repertory mood. And then Brooklyn College, that's where I got to meet Morgan, and I started with my BA in theater, and any chance I got, if I got to act, I was gonna do it. Didn't matter what it was. Oh, there's a class for it. I'm taking it. So I wanted to make sure I got every acting class I could. But I still felt like I needed more. I guess more rigorous training, and wanted to be taken more seriously, like just as an actor. Because in that school, it felt sometimes like you had your acting majors, you had your design majors, you had your costume designers, you had your stage managers, and as a theater major, you kind of put your hand in everything, which was actually very beneficial for later. But I felt like I want to be taken seriously as an actor. So by myself, I applied to a 2-year acting conservatory to get like a nice acting certificate. And I went to Circle in the Square Theater School right in the basement, right below where Wicked is, actually. So in like Circle in the Square. So in the basement
where
of
Oklahoma was. Oklahoma was on Broadway.
We got to train there. And that was a 2-year journey, like Monday through sometimes Saturday, usually Friday, 9 to 6. So that was the thing for 2 years.
That's a definitely a rigorous program, but a very exciting opportunity to have been able to do. And like you said, in college, sometimes, especially doing a BA, you're focusing on many things. They want you to be well-rounded. But once you find what you love to do, it's great to be able to focus and hone in those skills.
Yeah, that was, it's funny because that was why I felt like I needed the conservatory training at that time. And it also felt like the right place to be, because I felt like I already wrote a lot of essays in college about how I would approach a show if I were running it, or if I were, from an acting perspective, write a dissertation about a show. But I really wanted to put more practice into it on like a daily basis. So to get the Shakespeare training, and then to get the physical acting, dance, even voice, like we all had to sing. No one was spared.
Yeah.
So I felt like it stretched you in the way that you needed when you wanted that laser focus on a profession. And that's why I was happy that it happened when it did. And I was hungry for it. So it happened at the right time. Everything happened at the right time.
And it's opened many doors for you. I think the next question that we had was, how do you think that this has helped your career and your career path? But I think you've covered a lot of that. I don't know if there's anything else you'd like to elaborate on with that aspect.
Well, I'll tell you also like the ironic part of it is a lot of those schools, they give you the tools, but you don't always know, but they never really tell you what to do with them. It's sort of like, here's all the things you're going to learn as an actor. Now practice it in the world. Goodbye and good luck. And
isn't that true?
No floaties, no nothing. Like there was no like, oh, let me talk to my advisor and let me see what job they can link me with. Once graduation happened and you were getting your certificate, it was like goodbye. And there was a period there where like I didn't get representation after the showcase, like that first time around. I wrote to agents by myself and one bit. And that's been the agent that I've had on and off for the last few years, actually. So it took me a little bit of time. It wasn't like a jumped right in and boom, job. It took people that you knew or people you've worked with, like, hey, I'm doing a show for the summer. I'd love for you to join in on that. Or, oh, next year, I wanted to run a script for a film by you. Can I send you the script? And we were thinking filming next year. So it's just a lot of planting seeds, but it teaches you how to network. So you always got to keep those people on your radar. And yeah, hopefully if you made a good impression, you'll definitely have people thinking of you for those jobs. And that's kind of how it's
sure.
Yeah.
For sure, definitely. And that's a very interesting point of view too, because like we definitely think about, actors, and even as stage managers, you think about like how you get your job and whether you have a residency somewhere, whether you have an agent. But even when you have an agent or you do have a residency somewhere, you still do live that freestyle lifestyle because you're freelancing. You have to advocate for yourself.
I think that was like, you hit the nail on the head, Morgan. Like that was the biggest lesson I think that you learn post-schooling is representation's great. And depending on people for a job is cool. It's copacetic, but you really have to believe in yourself and believe that you have the tools, you've been given the training. Now use it when it's applied. And I think that was the biggest lesson. Like you can't depend on everybody to give you a job. So that led to self-producing a lot of work and collaborating with artists who were kind of in the same boat. Like my first job after school in general was doing the first show I ever did in college, Tijan and His Brothers. That's where I met Morgan, by Derek Walker. Amazing Trinidadian folklore play. And I got to do it again with a person who I also met at Brooklyn College, who was an MFA actress and named Antonavia. And
love Antonavia.
She's a doll. And she would bring her kids to rehearsal. It was the best process. But she had a love for the people behind the scenes. And she wanted us to create our costumes from scratch. All of us as actors, create your costume. So I was playing the narrator of the piece the second time around, which was a frog. So I'm playing an animal and the narrator, and I'm painting this green mask and like shopping for like, oh, I need like little mittens that look like, like like little froggy, legs. And I'm just having a fun time with it. But we had to create everything from scratch. And that was my first job after school. And you find that just from sending an email to somebody, like, I'm thinking about you. I hope you're doing okay. And you never know what can come out of it. So don't be afraid to put yourself out there. That's like the main source of advice I can give there.
Networking is extremely important no matter what part of theater you're in.
Mm-hmm.
That I can agree on. I mean, even as stage managers, you need to network nonstop. I just want to circle back to Circle in the Square.
Sure.
I don't know what it is, to be honest. When I heard it first time, I thought about theater in the lounge.
Yeah.
That is what came to my mind. So what is it? Please explain also to myself and maybe fellow South Africans who do not know about it.
Sure.
What exactly is it?
So it's funny you mentioned theater in the round. So basically the theater that it is in residence with, right above your head whenever you're doing class. You're doing Shakespeare right below where Hugh Jackman was doing a show right upstairs, like right above your head. So Act Quietly was like the joke that we had like ongoing. But basically it's a theater in the round for Broadway theater, and the seats are adjustable. So the cool training about it, why they, I guess, call it Circle in the Square, I guess the mission behind it is they're going to give you all different types of acting techniques, whether like you'll get a little bit of Meisner, you'll get a lot of Stanislavski, like that's the main focus. So a lot of imaginary circumstances and what ifs and like how you would act under those things. But the reason they call it Circle in the Square, they hope it's like a full circle process when you're there, because they start with finding who you are your first year, like find the parts that resonate with you. Then you learn to do all this different character work with masks and physical acting where you kind of become other people, Chekhov characters, Shakespearean characters, and then you end finding out again who you are as an actor. Like, what stories do you want to tell with all the things you've been taught? No, there was no map. And so it was sort of like, oh, we've learned all these techniques, but I don't know when which comes in handy. So a lot of it's figuring it out for yourself. And that's, I guess, one of the missions of that school. Like, we're going to give you a smattering of everything, but it's up to you to figure out when you can apply it. But it also feels like they don't want to pigeonhole you. That was the other thing. And I felt like I was able to grow there because I never saw myself as a leading man, okay, like ever in life. And then going there and doing shows where I was cast as the leading man, like Orsino in 12th Night, or like Macbeth, I got to play the title character. Like, there were things that I didn't realize I could do, or I didn't think I'd have that in me to pull that out. But somehow, like, they kind of believed in it. So everyone got to stretch and grow. And I'm thankful that I got to go there when I did. And I had the teachers that I did. So it was a traumatic but good experience, you know? Like, you have war stories, but you have also some good memories too.
I mean, it sounds amazing. So I'm assuming this is like quite elite, if I'm correct, in a way.
You know what? It has a lot of work to do, in the sense that they've gone through currently how to make it more welcoming and diverse for international students. And I want to make it very clear where I feel like sometimes programs don't realize that international playwrights and international like plays to study can really change your perspective when you make those actors training feel seen, and it's not just Western European culture shoved down your throat. And what I'm thankful that they're doing, and I'm thankful I had the teachers that I did my year, because we got to learn a lot about like African mask work. We got to learn a lot about like Asian, like kabuki, movement training. We got to learn all those things to realize that theater is not just westernized. It's so much bigger than that. And I feel like that's what a lot of programs need to do, but they're currently under a reconstruction of that program to make sure that it ensures that diversity. So in a way, what I can say for the school is stay tuned, but I really hope they come out of it the other side, really with an even more wider scope of theater training. So I'm hoping for the best. That's what I can say about that so far.
Well,
Very
I mean,
interesting.
that's definitely wonderful. I know I can, talk with this. There really is so much that we can learn from other cultures and other places
Yeah.
that make us open our eyes a little bit more and understand what we do a little bit better because we can understand how other people do things. And that
Yeah.
really is amazing that the school is giving everybody those opportunities to kind of open your eyes up a little bit more and
Yeah.
to open their program up even more too. Growth is very important.
Yeah. It's true. And I think even with faculty too, like realizing that core faculty is amazing, but sometimes bringing in guest artists who are currently working in the industry, it can give you hope to show like you can, I don't know, maybe not be born in the US, but realize that you can participate in art that is so internationally diverse. But it just opens up your perspective. So I hope a lot of these programs take note and just are open to learning and growing. That's like my biggest thing. I as an artist, you always got to grow, but I hope that the programs as well grow and learn along with the students. So
It's just I mean, it's the thing of like what Morgan also now said, and the international and with lockdown, everything that's happened.
yeah,
Like Morgan, I wouldn't have met. Apologies. Any of my other New York friends or
right.
US friends, Elizabeth, or any of those. And I've learned so much from how they work as stage managers, because obviously it's a completely different way than how we do it in South Africa.
Yeah,
So it's very interesting. I mean, crossing that borders and expanding it, which I also now actually want to kind of lead into what I'm about to say.
sure.
Um, and it's good to break down the borders and bring it together in a way. And for people watching and our supporters and followers, the reason why Alexander, Alex, is doing an interview with us today is because Downstage has been going through a change, as we all know. We started off where Downstage died for 2 years, basically. We rebooted it. COVID came with one good thing that came out of COVID is obviously Downstage got rebirthed in a way.
Yeah.
And during that whole process, we have now obviously branched out a bit more outside of the borders of South Africa, including Morgan, who's now part of Downstage Productions as operations coordinator / co-host. Yay! But that brings us to you, who
Mhm.
is now in a way joining the team as one of our performers.
Yes.
So that I just wanted to kind of put that in perspective so that everyone kind of knows why this interview is happening.
Mhm.
Because obviously, I mean, we usually do the technical department, and meet the team. So just some explanation. So Downstage has officially broken down the borders, and we are crossing the borders. We've climbed the Mexican wall from your president.
Yeah, we don't need to get
We
into
don't
that
claim,
wall.
claim it. We don't claim him.
Nope.
Um, but yeah, so I mean, I'm very excited. The company's very excited to have you. Firstly, on this interview, and secondly, to have you with us. I mean, the work that we've seen, it's amazing. For anyone who haven't seen it, I'm actually dropping his info now at the bottom, Instagram, and his webpage. Just go check it out because his work.
Yeah.
Dion is tired. We all know Dion Friday evenings is tired, so let's just Dion sometimes stop speaking.
He makes for great comedy.
Yes, it does. So, but seriously, go check his work out. It's really amazing. So I'll take that away and I'll pop it up again later. Moving on.
Mm-hmm.
So, how did you get involved in the theater industry? And
Right.
what was your first job in the theater?
Oh, okay. So it actually goes back to when I was 9 years old. So I was in fourth grade, and studying for my ELA. And I remember at the time I was going to a music school, for vocal training, before my voice changed. And I used to think like, oh, maybe like singing is my bent. And it was for a time, just because I love to emote through a song. But that led to the drag thing later. So I'll keep that in the back of my mind.
We'll get there.
That's why
Get
I love
there.
music. Always spoke to me, and music actually became my gateway to acting. I'd listen to songs and think about, oh, like that would be a great soundtrack for this character, you know. But I was 9 years old. I was in music school, and my voice teacher said, I have a connection for you, and you've seemed very animated. It's for a show called The Christmas Revels at Symphony Space. And professionally, I would love for you to be a part of it. Like, can I get your info? So, of course, the info means my mom's phone number. And so, before I knew it, I was in rehearsals for a Christmas show, at Symphony Space, which they did back in the 90s. To I guess it was like a Victorian English like Christmas show. So you get like a Christmas for the poor and the Christmas for the lavish and the rich. And I got to play a child like in a family in each economic situation. So that was like my first like serious break, but it was just a lot. The rehearsals were amazing. The guy who played my dad was such a sweet guy. Like, he would always bring me like fruit and like stuff because he knew I was coming straight from school to rehearsal. So it was the first time interacting with the stage manager, who was a love, and it was interacting with a cast of about 90 people. It was a
Wow,
lot of
that's
people.
big.
So we're sharing dressing rooms with a ton of people, but thank God Symphony Space is a big theater.
Yes.
But it was the first professional gig that I had, and that led to the first professional film thing that I did for an indie film called That Time of Year. And I played like the younger brother, of someone who committed suicide. And that was like one of the stagehands and one of the people who was doing volunteer work for the production. She was a film student, so that led to more film work. So ever since that time, I was like, I'm convinced I need to keep acting. Like, it was the thing that made me feel the most comfortable, and it was an outlet after school. Like, that was for me my after school program. But doing a Christmas show and then doing a serious short film, that it meant the world to me. But that was my first gig that got me involved in the industry, and the acting bug has been there ever since. I never turned.
That's pretty amazing. And it's kind of a joke because they always say that like these after school programs and things that we do when we're younger are kind of where we find ourselves. And it sounds like that was very true for you.
Yeah. Yeah. The things that you do in your spare time, like those hobbies, you want to call it, can really become your career one day. And that was like the shocking, almost jarring thing for me, because it was something I always wanted to do, and somehow it can fall into your lap, and you never want to let it go. And then like the bug bites you, and you keep itching. Like, you're like, I got to keep going with this. And that's what happened. So ever since I was 9, like, I really was acting every single year of my life since then, and going on 2 decades, going on 20 years. Like, that's really what it became.
That it is quite a length of time, and you mean wonderful, and you've grown so much in that. So we've spoken a little bit about your acting, but you've also had other positions that you've done in theater. Do you want to elaborate a little bit more on those?
Yeah, sure. So like, when it came to theater work, and also in Brooklyn College, I was part of poetry club. So that was like an extracurricular on top of all that stuff. And I had a lot of poems that I wrote from high school, and I noticed like they had a slam team. So I was like, oh, I get to go to open mics like the New Eurekan. I get to, like, which is in the Lower East Side in New York, very well-known poetry venue, and also participate in slam competitions. So that's where the competitive streak started. Like, that's when I realized, like, okay, I can harness these nerves and deliver a story, because you have a set amount of time, but you also have to act your way through the poem to tell the story the best. So I got to like use that acting training and use that acting passion and with my own words. And I didn't think that was possible, but seeing that there's a whole world of spoken word poetry, that became
Yes.
the next venture for me. And that ever since Brooklyn College, I haven't stopped that either. So it feels like you get all these bug bites, and you just got to keep following the trail and see where it leads you. So that was the next thing right after acting stuff.
Yes, definitely. And that's actually part of, why we had thought of you and love for you to like come onto our team and be part of it, because that's something that we really haven't gotten that much onto downstage and in the process of that, of seeing the spoken word. And it really is amazing that not only do you perform your spoken word, but you actually do a lot of writing yourself.
Yeah. Yeah. I had a creative writing teacher in Midwood High School, and her name was Miss Lustbader. One of my favorite human beings I've ever met in the entire world. And it's really funny. She really taught me to put my money where my mouth was, because every time I would write a poem, it was always about, I want to be an actor. This is my dream. This is who I am, and in senior year of high school, like I just wanted people to know who I was. For some reason, I didn't want to be invisible. I wanted to take my space. And there was one morning, it was like a Friday, and I was auditioning for Juilliard, like I was auditioning for colleges. Brooklyn College was one of them, and she just looked at me one day and said, I've heard enough of your poetry about the acting stuff. Why don't you give us your acting material? Come on, show us what you're going to audition with. She made me at 8 in the morning perform 4 monologues in front of my class that never saw me act like that before. And
Wow.
and then like, but 8
That
a.m.
is
It
pretty
was like
amazing.
I didn't even wipe the crust out of my eyes yet. I had a
I'm
bacon, egg, and
surprised
cheese
you're awake.
waiting. I was ready. And then, but I got to do it. And it was the first time I was vulnerable in front of an audience, and not like on a surface level, like legit tears and legit telling the class, like, this is really what I want to do. And I promise I'm not just talking out of my butt with it. Like, this is really what I want to do. I'm not just, it's not just like, oh, this is just who I am. It's like, but it really is. Like, it really is an integral part of my identity. And then she said, okay, and read me your last poem that's not even about acting. And my class gave me a standing ovation. And that's when
Oh,
I knew. I was like, A, I live for the applause, and then B, and then B, that was where
Applause,
I was meant to
applause,
be.
applause.
That's where I was meant to just keep writing and keep performing. And it was just really worth it to kind of win your teacher's questioning of like who you are. And like, she believed in me. And that was the first time, like, when a teacher really kind of just understood me. And I
But
was like, yeah, this is why I want to connect with people, and this is why I do what I do. So that was the start of it, and I have her to blame.
now,
Like,
actually,
it's her
on
fault.
that, um, I know we kind of asked if you wouldn't at the end, but while we are on this, would you mind doing us a piece? And then we give you the floor to give us a piece of actually your performance and the
Sure.
breathtaking moment of it.
Yeah,
So
I mean,
I'm gonna Morgan, I gonna disappear, and then
yes.
you do your thing, and then we'll pop up again. I think it's now while we are discussing it, and you just mentioned it. It's actually still that emotion is there because I can see the smile on your face actually.
mhm.
Um, so if you're comfortable with that,
Yeah, I'm ready. I'd love to.
so the floor's yours. Enjoy.
All right. Hey, everybody. Um, I wrote this poem called "The Light Through the Window," and it's a love letter to my mom. Oh, I have a motorcycle guy outside. I'm just waiting for him to pass. There we go. Okay, here we go. I saw her staring out the window once, playing her Aretha Franklin and her Carole King and her Laura Nyro. Pine Sol swayed in the air to the rhythm of my mom's Swiffer. At one point, I glanced up from devouring my cinnamon vanilla pancakes drenched in maple syrup goodness. She stood there like a dancer, posture of an eager young student in a ballet class, assuming her spot at the bar, the left foot at about 10 o'clock, the right at about 1 or 2. If peace had a sound, it would be my mother's face, bathing in sunlight as if the rays themselves were mini time capsules. It was the first time she looked like a sculpture of herself. She wasn't just mom. Like a cherubic fountain in a fancy courtyard, she spouted out opal complexion truths pure as water. I used to dance, she said. Adding pastel-hued paint to the canvas, she said. I started late, but I was good. It felt as natural as walking. My mind took a vacation in solitude. It would have been cool to open up my own little studio, no one to kowtow to, but I gave it up. I needed to make money. She sat down with me at the table. That's why I support your art. So I get you. She really saw me. And I've never felt more tethered to her. Our blood, sewn together shadows, coming together like dots of paint agreeing to meet for coffee due to pointillism. I have a legacy to protect. Artists who fly close to the sun and make it. My mom is my wings. I wax poetic, and this wax don't melt. My mom aborted her dancing dream and miscarried her dancing future for a man and life's logistics. I wish the man was let go of so her art could travel and soar, hot air balloon over jagged cityscape. She tells me, I support you the way I was never supported, fiercely. Pick up your journal and your pen your aunt bought you and make magic, create. She gave me life and purpose. Stand in the light you were meant to, like my mom did on that Saturday morning. I saw a healer, a dancer, a mother, a dancer, a lioness, a friend, a dancer, a provider, an educator, a hippie, a Buddhist, a hard worker, a dreamer, a dancer. And that's that piece. And you know what? If you want, I've got one more that I'd like to do for you guys, specifically for you guys, if that's okay. For you? Okay, I got you. All right. When I walk by, I need you to light me up, but miss me when I'm gone. The sparks remind us that we should kiss and live freely absorbed in the taste of bliss, but you said, I'm not drunk enough for this. I'm a phase or a mistake. A closeted, stifled expression of what we both know you need, a risk of love you need to take. I want to give all of me to someone who will cherish every gem, every flaw. But when it comes to you, it's not enough. Always clinging to the false hope, shamelessly bearing my love, overflowing from my grin to the way my hips would sway, craving your glance and the light of your smile. My eyes cannot hide their needy gaze, to be locked in reciprocity, crying for something real that I'm not the only witness to. You left me no choice and no chance of feeling or sensing a glimpse of an us. Down the drain is where us and we and our was left to trickle down to the unseen and unheard. I am left woozy and confused. Am I crazy? And what did I mean to you? Our connection has been left unspoken, left to collect dust, shut down, and pushed aside like a cold case. My ground is unsteady, while yours is unfazed, but was never ready to handle the force of us. And that one came from putting heartbreak into my poetry. And that was very on brand for why I kept writing. Because I used to bottle emotions all the time and not share them with people. And then realizing, like, if you really want to connect with people, you have to just open yourself up a little bit and don't be afraid to tell your story. And that's where those poems came from. So thank you so much for letting me share those with you today. And I'm excited to share more, but I'm so thankful I got to share those today.
Yes, thank you so much for sharing them. That one definitely hit home for me. I mean, oof. I try not to bottle stuff up, but sometimes you do find yourself doing that, and you find yourself in experiences like you were talking about, and relationships that you just are feeling that And it's wonderful to hear you be able to pour that out and to share it. And I'm sure, we are not the only ones who are feeling that and can relate to your work.
Yeah.
And yes, I mean, you guys will see, we have plenty more stuff that is coming from us. I'm sorry, I'm a little choked up right now.
Yeah.
Little hugs.
Same, yeah.
Little hugs.
Little hugs are hugs.
Oh,
Love you guys.
yo, Morgan and I didn't know what Alex was going to perform, and that first one, I feel like I need to go drink a bottle of wine now.
Oh,
It was just, it hit so deep, and it is so, and I'm gonna say it's so fucking beautiful.
thank you. Thank
It
you.
And
is.
I know I try and keep this R-rated, but in this case, I don't care.
Good.
That was, I've actually got goosebumps down. Like, I can't speak. It's like, I feel like just been transported to a magical world, honestly. And it is just, your talent that you have is beautiful. It is stunning, and it should be shared with the world. It should be shared with the universe. It is not something that should be on Instagram for people to view. It should be blasted over speakers, on loudspeakers. I literally don't have the words. I don't even know if I can continue with these questions. It's just, I mean, I've watched your stuff, and obviously it's not the same, because it's, I don't know, watching something, it's like a leap play, but
Yeah.
seeing this like in action, in law, passion, I mean, whew, everyone knows I'm a very sensitive person sometimes. But usually on
It is
downstage,
beautiful.
on downstage segments, I try and keep professional, but I've got goosebumps. I've got tears in my eyes.
Oh, thank
That
you
was stunning.
so much. Well, I'll tell you, like, just to give you a little insight into like just the poetry in general too, and why it's so important. A lot of beautiful art comes from really dark places. And in person, like if you meet me, I do have a naturally cheery disposition because I want everyone to feel welcomed and cared about. And just because I've been in positions where I've been the opposite of that. And I always want people to feel comfortable wherever they are, to feel whatever they want to feel, and share a little bit of like nuggets of truth, even in poetry. Because all my poetry comes from a very honest place, and they are semi-autobiographical, so it is sharing who I am. But honestly, out of those words, like, were really painful experiences, professionally, in the theater world, relationship wise, with just meeting people who even want to value you, and with and even with family, like all those things, and just but after like kind of doing the dirty work and pushing yourself through those muddy situations, but confronting them and all those feelings that come with it, which is why I'm so thankful that you were as taken with it, because that's why I do it. I do it so people can feel. And it I feel like we should open ourselves up to be more vulnerable about what we think and what we feel. So I'm just so appreciative to be able to share it here. But that's where it comes from.
And we're very happy to give you a platform. And I mean,
Yeah.
I think we've touched a little bit on you as an actor and you being able to perform other people's stuff. And now we're getting, a lot into you creating a lot of your own work. And it's not just your spoken word and your poetry that you write. You have, one-man shows and stuff that you have had. And I mean, it's pretty amazing that you have been able to generate a lot of your own work in the last a whole bunch of years. And I mean, that's wonderful. Is that the direction you're hoping and feeling that your career is going to go?
Oh yeah. I mean, like there's a weird delusional power that comes with being able to do your own work, because I started doing my own work for the sole reason, and like if you ask me about it like any day of the week, I'll be very honest. I wasn't booking a lot reading other people's work. I was usually the second choice. I would make it far in the lineup, or I would make it far in the decision factor, but I would always get that email or that letter saying, oh, but we went in a different direction with this, or we felt like we wanted to go in a more, I don't know, like a less vulnerable path with this part, And it felt personal at the time. Like it felt like, okay, am I giving too much in these auditions? Like, what am I doing wrong? And I started doing my own work when I saw a play at Brooklyn College that I wasn't even allowed to audition for. And it was sort of like, well, I want to do it. And let me see how to go about that. So flying by the seat of my pants, I was like, let me buy the rights to the play. Let me book a venue. Let me take the money that I used working retail when I'm not acting or booking any jobs to fund this piece, start an Indiegogo, and work with people who I would love, who I've always wanted to work with, or never got a chance to. And that was like the first venture, was doing a play called Gruesome Playground Injuries by Rajiv Joseph. And that was like my first producing venture. And that was someone else's words. But then writing my poetry and realizing I needed to tell a story of, I guess, unprocessed pain. Like I had a lot of stuff that I didn't talk about in college, and I'll talk about it here while we're on the topic. Like, just it's going to get vulnerable, but this is what it is.
I think
that kind of platform.
I think we're way past vulnerable at this stage. Like,
I'm glad it. So 2012 for me, it was my junior year in college, and it was in fact the worst year of my life to this date. I was not getting along with my mom because I was branching out, coming to terms with my sexuality, and dating men from online, like OkCupid, and like all that stuff. And I would set up after rehearsals, after, school was over, dates with different guys during the week. So I saw maybe like 5 or 6 different guys a week just to date and put myself out there. That's how lonely I felt. And then on top of that, my mom found out about it and questioned why I needed that type of attention. And I didn't know. I didn't have an answer for it. And then my stepdad was diagnosed with cancer, and that was my father figure in my life. And it did not look good. He was diagnosed like the years before, but we got the updated diagnosis that it was uncurable. So it's just you only have several years to live, and he only made it through 4. And 2012 was his final year. So I'm finishing up my junior year. I'm not getting along with my mom. I'm living with my mom and my stepdad, who is dealing with respirators and dealing with all this stuff because he had liver cancer that went to his bones, that went to his lungs. And he was always in pain. So it was hard to be home. I met a guy in my theater history class who I did not meet online, and was like, good, a relationship my mom would be proud of. And he was abusive, but I jumped into it. And after a month of being with him, he raped me. He sexually assaulted me because I wasn't having sex with him right away, and I wasn't moving fast enough for him. So I lost my virginity. I hated being home. And it was Easter when it happened. It was like April 3rd. And I didn't talk about it for 2 years. So I buried that. had to go to class with the guy. And then on top of it, my stepdad died in August of that year. So April, May, June, July, August, died. And I was working on a show with Morgan where we felt very like a fringe show. So a fringe New York City show, which is a big deal for college kids because we wrote the show.
Yes, we did.
We were working with a group that a lot of it was about wanting focus and wanting spotlight and too many cooks in the kitchen. So I felt like professionally, I didn't get along with anyone. I said goodbye to my dad. I lost my virginity, and I guess just didn't know how to process a traumatic experience all in 1 year. And then after that death, like, and after the show, senior year started August 27. So I only had 7 days to process, do a show, be professional, get through it. And I realized if I can get through that, I can get through anything. And I started writing more. And that's when I wrote my best work. Like, that's where all the poetry that you hear came from. That's where that last poem came from, because the guy was closeted. He didn't want anyone to know about who he was. And he was ashamed of me. So that was just a lot to process, but poetry really was my healing. That and therapy, but poetry definitely had a lot of a hand in processing all those feelings over the years. And if it weren't for those experiences, I don't think I'd be the artist that I am today and be as open about those feelings. So that is the origin story that year of why I wanted to do my own work and tell my own story. So that's it. That's where it comes from.
I remember that year. I mean, it definitely was an extremely hard year. I mean, I know a lot of people on here have heard, I talk a little bit about my health struggles and, the things I go through and kind of claiming myself as a warrior in a way. And it actually, all of my stuff started the same year that everything was starting with you. And I think that warrior title really does stand for you too. And sometimes art is probably the most cathartic thing that we can do for ourselves and, work through some of our traumas in the healthiest way that we can really find and to cope with it, and also kind of find a part of ourselves that we maybe wouldn't have found before these struggles in life and the hardships that we've had to go through.
And it was the girls in my life that really helped me through it. Because I talked to some guy friends who I'm no longer friends with, by the way, because there was just that disagreement or understanding that another man can be sexually assaulted by a boyfriend, and that was an argument I was not ready to have at the time. But now I'm like, let's tussle. I can talk about it now. But at the time I couldn't. And it was just, we were not connecting. But that's where my drag comes from too, and why I wanted to be like a superhero that emulates all the girls in my life. Like, that's where Satanya was born, and embracing that she can be vulnerable too. And we all go through that kind of pain, but I always saw women as superheroes. So Satanya Face is my superhero persona. Like, if I put on like a gown or like something very high fashion or beautiful, that's like my cape. Like, that highlighter is my like, that's like my shield, and I'm ready to fight. I'm ready to perform and all that. But it was the women in my life that really helped me get through those moments and encourage that it's okay to cry about it. It's okay to talk about it, because we've all gone through it. It's a human experience. And Morgan is one of those people that's been there from the beginning and has been there through those experiences. But that's also where the need to do my own stuff came from. Like, I needed to take control of my emotions, my story, and kind of take back your power. And that's where it came from, taking back that power that you felt like you lost when you felt really lost. So that was the thing.
Alex knows this, but I'll share with everybody else. In my family, we have a running joke about this metaphorical Wonder Woman suit. That it's just like when one of us are having a really hard time, we kind of like digitally pass it to each other to kind of be a support. And like you're saying about like, it's sort of your cape. It's sort of that thing that it helps you through and that support and that, little bit of strength. And sometimes, nobody really understands the struggle because like I know I don't really show all the struggles that I go through, and I know you don't either. Most
Yeah.
of us don't, but sometimes being open about those struggles helps somebody else who might be going through the same thing but doesn't really know how to talk about it, or they don't really understand how to express it or process it. And knowing that they're not alone in their fight can be an extremely important thing and can be really beneficial to everybody out there. And it's wonderful that you are putting this out there, that you are doing, you're talking about your experiences, that you're putting it into art, because art heals, and it not only for you, but for everybody who's experiencing it that can relate to it. And I mean that it's just such a wonderful thing. And it's such a wonderful adventure, not only having been able to watch you grow all these years, but now seeing you get into this Tanya phase and into this drag life. And it's wonderful. Would you like to tell us a little bit more about how you got into that? I mean, I know you heard a little bit. And
Yeah.
how you came up with that name.
Well, it's a lot of it comes from like honestly, Satania, like the way she was born, pure comedy. Like this is gonna make you laugh. So basically, I was watching RuPaul's Drag Race like one day, like someone turned me on to it. So I went to like one of the gay bars in the city. I think it was Boxers, but it was in Washington Heights, so it was deep. But I was like, this better be good. And I'm watching the show, and there was just a weird part of me that was like, I could do that. It's just like a weird, like petty part. Like I was just like, I can turn a party. Like, and Morgan knows me. Like we've joked about this because we've been to clothing stores together where
he looks better in a dress than I do. We've tried on the same dresses, and I've always been fascinated. I'm like, you look better in it than me.
Right. But remembering that, like that's the sick part where it was like, I mean, I've been told I look good in dresses. Like, why not make it a profession, And so, so ever since then, and I also at the time had an ex-boyfriend, also turned ex-fiance at the time, who, when I brought up, like, what would you think if I did this? He said, is this you coming out as trans? Like, it was an ignorant question, but it was also him not understanding that it has nothing to do with how I felt about myself as a man, or it wasn't like a personal journey for me. It was more of just a way of expressing yourself through art, and he was scared of it. So I put it on the back burner. Luckily, we broke up. And as a petty thing in my head, I was like, well, he said I shouldn't do it, so I'm just going to do it. So I out of spite, entered a drag competition on February 18th at the Stonewall Inn, and was like, you know what? I'm going to see how well I can do. And I got myself a dress from Fashion Nova. I had one of my good friends, Sammy Price, come over and paint my face because she's a makeup artist and a performer as well. And so I was like, all right, girl, beat my face. Let's get there. Let's take a cab. She's putting on press-on nails in the cab as we're on our way. It was a hot mess, but I made top 5 in that competition. And it was just like, that was the moment where I was like, maybe I found a thing I can do, because I've always lip synced in the shower. I've always wanted to sing like Whitney Houston songs and like, Judy Garland and all this stuff. And now she can, so but it's also as therapeutic doing your makeup. Like I didn't realize how I can't draw, but I can blend colors. I love watercolors growing up. Like I love to draw with crayons. So I felt like that was calming for me, like just staring at yourself, selfishly, and just creating a persona. I was like, oh, that's what blending is. That's what eyeshadow does. Ooh, lipstick doesn't taste so good. It's like, but you learn through it. And I'd like to blame my grandma for watching. She never made me watch football, but she did make me watch her do her makeup in the mirror when I was like really little. So it's her fault.
Just blame it on your grandma. I love your grandma, but blame it on her. She'll take it.
She has
I
been
kind of
so supportive of Satanya in the sense that she'll ask me like, "Oh, like what are you gonna wear for like a future performance video you're gonna make?" And I would show her the dress, I would show her the wig, I would show her like all the stuff, and then she'd be like, "Oh, can you do the lip sync for me?" And I would do it for her. I'd perform it in her kitchen, and she'd start crying, and I'm like, "Oh God, like, don't go there yet. Like, don't move me. I'm just trying to show you what I can do." And she's been supportive of it every step of the way. So that's
Wonderful.
turned into gratitude. So you find a light at the end of the tunnel, but that's what
uh,
Satanga was for me.
I
That's what that
kind
was.
of went onto Instagram and stole a picture. So here is Satanya, and she's gorgeous.
Ah, yes. And that was the first thing, ring light. Let me tell you, a ring light changes everything. But she for me is a love letter to all different types of women, trans women, hairy women, black women, white women, Asian, any woman who felt like or has been told that she can't do something. Because I realized drag for me came out of that place of someone saying, "I don't think you can do that." And I was like, "Oh, bet, okay.
Watch me.
You don't know I'm competitive." And I would do it out of spite. And so that's where she came from, because someone told me that I couldn't or I shouldn't
But
do it.
just
It made them uncomfortable.
so I'm gonna bring this picture up again. Unfortunately, it is now gonna cover you. But just tell us a bit more about this. What happened? What was this for?
Uh, Honestly, this one was for a Zoom drag show now that we've gone virtual in this world of drag. And I got booked to do some slam poetry as Titania, because in that first competition I ever did, and that's kind of how I introduced myself, was I promise I'm going to do a lip sync, and I promise I'll be cool and copacetic and, do my little like mouthing tones with like the movable jaw. But I am going to do my poetry. That is the condition. And so I went in and did a slam poem, and then did I Believe in You and Me by Whitney Houston. That was the first song I ever did. And ever since then, I met the resident DJ at the Stonewall Inn, and he has kept me working through this quarantine doing a Zoom show. So that came out of doing more erotic poetry in a look that made me feel like a Barbie doll. And that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to do like something bubblegum, pop, pink lavender world, but with some gritty poetry as like a juxtaposition, and like as like the irony of it. And so yeah, now Satanya's become a slam poetry queen. And that's
Wow.
we want to keep it booked. And that's how I've been working virtually. But when the world opens back up, I hope the world is ready for a different kind of drag performance.
I hope so too.
Yes, and we hope that our viewers are ready for that too, because we are very excited to be able to have both Alexander and Satanya be able to perform with us.
Oh,
so look out.
Right, she was named Satanya, right? I promise I'm gonna give that to you before I sign off, and you'll know exactly why. I promise. But we'll come back to it. But yeah.
I mean, talking about signing off, we're now hitting an hour and 12 minutes.
Woo!
So I think we are getting to the end here. Let's just see. Is there anything any exciting projects that's coming up that our supporters, our followers can have a look out, can check for? This is basically the time to shame market, just go for it.
Self-promote, shameless promotion.
We give it to you, like, just go for it now.
All right. No. Goodbye. Thank you. No. No thanks. Okay, so you'll learn this about me. Self-promotion, I go through anxiety attacks just to post my stuff. Every time I'm always like, who's gonna care? It shouldn't matter. Boop. Oh no, maybe I should, I go through the ups and downs. But I will do my best. So as I have an anxiety attack in front of you, I just wanted to let you guys know, right now on the horizon, the new thing that's coming out is I'm working on publishing my poetry. That's like I wanted to make it official.
Wow.
So I'm working on publishing my poetry book,
amazing.
and it's the poetry play of my one person show. It became a one queen show. It kind of like, moved into that territory, where Satania will be introduced hopefully on a book tour, and it will also be part drag show, part selling the book. But I'm working on the publishing now. Edits are almost done. I'm working with someone doing my cover, an amazing illustrator. So I'm so excited to share that later on. But hopefully by end of fall, there will be a book that you can get from Amazon, ebook, physical copy, all that stuff. So that's the next step. The Unicorn That Discovered Self-Love. That's the name of the show. And it's a play about healing and also crashing a wedding, which you'll learn more when you see the story. But that's what's next for Alex and Satan, for both of us, essentially. But you'll see some more poetry. And this month on my Instagram will be a lot of modeling from Satania Face. So you're going to see a lot more photos. One is dropping today.
Wonderful. We'll look for that.
And you're going to get more through Halloween based on my favorite horror movie, Scream. So you're going to see an updated Drew Barrymore version of Satania.
Wow.
Doing the monologue from the film because I have the house phone. So I'm going to be like, hello, what number were you trying to reach? You're watching me? Like that kind of thing. But get ready for more homages to the horror genre and some modeling from Satania Face and some monologues from Alex will be coming too. I'm going to show some more theater stuff because I miss it.
Wonderful.
Which is on Instagram, which is now currently scrolling here at the bottom beneath us. Well, beneath Alex.
Down there.
I mean,
below me.
below me.
And while I just have to point out that you almost got Dion to do a spit take right there.
Well, listen, spitting never makes you popular, but do what you have to do.
And this is why we're friends.
And that is, I mean, this has been a great segment. I've cried, I've laughed, I have spitted out my coffee. There's been some all non-PG related stuff that's come out of here. I mean, basically, all I want to say is I'm super excited for the future, downstage and you combined. And also, obviously, crossing the borders, you crossing from the US over to us, not physically, because, I mean, no one has
Not yet.
money.
One day.
But also downstage crossing over to you guys. So, I mean, I'm very excited for this new chapter of. I feel like I'm making weird stuff with my hands. But I mean, I'm very excited as the creative managing director of Downstage Production. I'm very excited for this entanglement that's now happening. Bringing the US to us and taking South Africa to the US. So I'm very excited for that, and I'm very excited to have more of your work featured on Downstage, on all the platforms.
Me too.
So I'm definitely waiting for that. I can't wait for your first one, which is coming out, Morgan.
When is it?
2 weeks?
Yeah.
I mean, 2 weeks from now.
2 weeks from now, we are officially releasing your first performance segment on Downstage Productions. We're also very excited for possible work that you and Carla will be doing. Obviously digitally because flying so
exciting things in the works for sure. Very exciting things to bring to all of you,
which I'm very excited about, which Downstage is very excited about. And I mean, firstly, I just want to say thank you for being prepared to come on. Thank you for taking that meeting the first time, even though it took like 6 years to get, not that long, but it did feel like it. Because it was just life was chaos. So thank you for actually, we all got together and we could make this happen. Thank you from Downstage's side for the beautiful art you have created now and are still going to create. Do you want to say anything? Do you want to lead us out with maybe another spoken word?
I will lead you out with I will definitely do that for you.
Wait, before we go, you do need to still talk about Satania, the name.
That's exactly what's about to happen.
Okay,
So
cool.
this is where it gets a little nasty, but thank you guys for tuning in now. This is where we turn up the, tell the parents. This is where you tell your kids. Okay, so
Send him in the other room.
So
for now,
all,
for now.
all under 18s quickly go out.
But they call me Satanya Face because I enjoy getting my ass eaten, but it's the best way to shut up anyone who doubts you. Thank you guys so much for tasting my talent. You have an acquired taste. And that's how Satanya always ends out. But I'll end it with the last spoken word for you. Sure. This one was actually a poem that I was gifted by a friend from Circle named Jordan Donahue. But I did some edits to it because I'm that person. I was like, I'm gonna fix it. I'm gonna do some things. And so this is the poem called Vitality. Vitality, the scent and actions of youth-driven sensuality. Once and all too suddenly, this is new reality, clinging and claiming merciless freedom, seeing an anonymous, knowing you need them, keeping it quiet within your heart, choked away, truthful actions left uninspired with nowhere to lay, incredulity in the face of shocking desire, the crack of a whip within your bones, like raging fire. A mindful year spent exploring, never ignoring a rumor you've decided for yourself, deploring the basic nature of humanness, which includes sexuality, openness, and yearning. Your body exudes a pulse, a throb, the need for a god among mortals. Those nondescript portals confront mere, meager, sorrowful creatures. This life features endless suffering in the face of denial. It's his and hers, our generously contrite trial. We file each feeling labeled inappropriate, so be it. I choose to remove preconceived opinions within sins without kin. I am thin like paper. My endless layers are simple but convoluted. We can say all people are lie polluted, steeping in a pit of confusion and inconsistencies is nothing like facts. The fantasies are inexplicable acts. Still, I pray for some meaning in my universal scope, seeking that last, shattering, nonsensical glimpse of hope. Thank you, guys. Woo!
That was amazing.
Mic drop.
Please don't ever do a new mic drop. Thank you, Alex, for coming on. Thank you for introducing Downstage followers and our viewers to your magical art. Again, that was breathtaking. I'm not going back into that now because I can't go through all that emotion again. Okay, let's just not do it.
We have laughed, we have cried, and we have been on quite a journey on this episode for you guys.
Roller coaster.
So, I mean, yes, from my side, from Dance's side, thank you, Alex, for coming on. It's really been an honor having you here. Morgan, I don't know if you want to say anything before I let
I mean, you're stealing most of my stuff. Thank you for not only this is a beautiful partnership, and thank you for joining, but thank you for coming on and letting our followers and listeners get to know you a little bit. And I am very excited, and I think everybody here is very excited to see what the future is going to hold and what we have coming up.
I mean, we're all, I think we can speak for it. We're all excited. But thank you guys so much for having me. It made my day. Cause my time zone, we still have a day. But it made me so happy to be able to do this and share stories, art, all that stuff. I'm very thankful. So bye. No.
Bye. Now you can learn. Honestly, thank you, Alex, and have a wonderful afternoon.
Yeah.
I can't wait to see what you give us for 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, Alexander
Yeah.
and Satania.
I'm used to it. It's fine.
I'm trying to get you there. No, I'm skew there.
Find the right angles.
Ladies and gentlemen, Alex and Satania Face. Good afternoon, Alex, and have a wonderful afternoon.
You have a good evening.
Thank you. Wow, that was
quite a fun.
Intense. I mean, there's so many emotions going through me. sorry,
That's what art does. I mean, art is extremely emotional,
No, it
and
is,
when
but
you
it's
have people who
like
are passionate about what they do, it's such an amazing thing. You laugh, you cry, you go through the whole thing, but
it was just this magical moment from the start, bringing him in. I mean, we start with a bang. It started with laughter. It was just such an exciting segment. I mean, I'm honestly excited for what he has to bring for us and what Downstage will be producing of him. And giving him the platform in South Africa. I'm
yes.
ecstatic about that. Um, Obviously, as usual, just remember you can follow us on social media. Where is this? Down there at the bottom.
It's
Um,
scrolling.
we are on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. All the username is at downstageZA. You can email us at info@dsp.co.za, or you can visit our website at dsp.co.za. This has been a wonderful evening. Before we do go off, I am just going to give my speech I do usually. During the COVID time that we are currently going through, we all need some support. So if you can, we have set up a funding, go get funding, structure donation. If you are able, if you want to invest in the art that Downstage is possibly providing you, please do so. Morgan, do you have anything else to say?
I mean, I think at that point, we are in a pandemic right now, and funds are definitely a little tight, and we really enjoy being able to bring this all to you and to be able to bring art. And I know money is tight for all of us personally too, but every little bit really does help. And even a small donation can add up. A few little small donations can cover the cost of us being able to bring this to you. So really, any little bit does help and does count, and ensures that we're able to bring this to you and to provide artists and bring on people like Alex for you to be able to have exposure to him when you might not have been able to do so before.
I think that's beautifully said. With that, from my side, good evening from South Africa.
And good afternoon from New York.
We are leaving you and we are letting you out with one last video. Have a lovely morning, afternoon, evening from whichever time zone you're on. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, or whomever tuned in. Thank you. We appreciate your support. Good night from South Africa. Good afternoon from...
Yeah.
Bye, everyone. Last wave. Slow-mo.